Hello everyone, my name is Mikio. In this video, I will explain how to start testing with Pytest. Pytest is a popular test framework in Python. It helps to automate the test execution process and run unit tests as frequently as possible with minimum effort. Everyone who has at least some experience with computer programming would intuitively know that testing is crucial when building a software application. But beginners often find it difficult to know where and how to start. If that is you, this video will help you get started. How to install Pytest. Let's start by installing Pytest. Like other Python packages, you can install Pytest simply using the pip command. Open a terminal if you are a Mac or Linux user, or command prompt if you are a Windows user, and type the command like this. Once it has finished, you can check the installation by running pytest --version. If you see the version number, you are all set. How to write a test in Pytest. The simplest way to write a test in Pytest is to write it in the same source file. Assume that you have a Python file called calc.py. In this file, you have a function called mul, which takes two integers as arguments and returns the multiplication of the two values. You can check the output of this function by manually running the function on the Python interpreter. It works, but as your application grows, it quickly becomes challenging to check everything in this way manually. So let's use Pytest to make this process easier. Write a function test underscore mul underscore should underscore succeed in the same calc.py file. The function name should start with the prefix test underscore. It is because Pytest finds test functions beginning with this prefix by default. Also, it is helpful to name the function so that you can see what kind of tests the function executes when you look at the function name. Pytest can show function names and their test results in the output, so it becomes easier to know which tests have failed, as you'll see later in this video. In the test function body, you get the result from the target function, which is the function you test, and then compare it with the expected value using the assert statement. It returns true when the expression specified after the assert keyword is true. In this case, we expect mul2, 3 to return 6, so this test should pass. Let's check it out. How to run Pytest. You can run tests using the pytest command. Go back to the terminal and run the command like this. In the output, you can see that the file name calc.py and a dot. It means that Pytest ran one test in the file calc.py and the test passed. As we only have one test, 100% of the tests have passed. As this output is not very informative, let's add the -v option and run the pytest command again. This time, the output has more information, and you can see the function name and the result, which is passed. You can add as many assert statements as you like to the function. As long as all asserts pass, the function passes. Now, let's assume that the requirements for the function mul have slightly changed, and now the function might get string arguments. Add another test function to check that the function returns a correct result when one of the arguments is a string. This test fails, but Pytest shows you exactly which assert statement failed with the actual and expected values, which is very helpful for the problem analysis. In this case, let's convert the input arguments to integer. Now the test passes. How to organize tests? Although writing tests in the same source file works perfectly fine, it will quickly become difficult to manage tests as your application becomes more complex. It is common practice in real-world use cases to create a separate test file for each source file. If you have many source files, you might want to create a directory and put all the test files there. But as we only have one source file, let's create a file called test_calc.py in the same directory and move the test function into this file. Like in the function name, it is important to have the prefix test underscore in the test file name because Pytest automatically discovers test files with this prefix by default. Note that you need to import the function mul from calc.py because now the test functions are defined in a separate Python file. Now go back to the terminal and run pytest. This time, you don't even need to specify the Python file as a command line argument because Pytest will automatically discover test files in the current directory by default. How to parameterize tests in Pytest. You can add as many assert statements with different input values as you like, but it creates repetition. For example, if you needed to change the function name from mul to mul_v1 for some reason, you would need to change the function name in all assert statements, which can be error-prone. You can use a pytest.mark.parameterize decorator to solve this problem. There are three things to change. Firstly, you need to import Pytest in your test file. Secondly, add pytest.mark.parameterize decorator to the test function. The decorator has two arguments. The first argument is the string representation of the parameter names, separated by a comma. The second argument is a list of tuples. In each tuple, specify the values of the parameters in the same order as specified in the first argument. Lastly, specify the parameter names in the test function arguments. Then, these parameters become available within the test function, and you can use them in the assert statements. When you run Pytest, it will first run the test function with the values in the first element of the list, which is a equals 2, b equals 3, and expected equals 6. And then it will move on to the second element, the third element, and so on. How to catch exceptions in Pytest. You can use pytest.raises as a context manager to verify that the function raises an exception. The function mul raises a value error if it cannot convert the argument value to an integer. You can add a test to verify this behavior. You can run Pytest and check that the test passes. In this video, we looked at the popular Python test framework, Pytest. First, we looked at how to install Pytest, write a simple test, and execute it using the Pytest command. We also parameterized the test functions to use various input parameters more efficiently. Then, we created a test function to check exceptions. Pytest is a powerful tool, and this video has only scratched the surface. But even with this basic functionality, you can already write a lot of tests. I hope this video helps you get started with Pytest and improve your code quality. That's it for this video. I'm Mikio, and thank you for watching.